This is an M4 carbine. Now, it looks pretty much just like a shorter M16, which it kind of is, but it took Colt a lot of time and effort to redesign many of the internal components so that it would function reliably with this shorter barrel and shorter gas system. In fact, it only retains about 75% parts compatibility with an M16. The other 25% or so had to be redesigned. Whereas the M16 family uses a 20-inch barrel, this has a 14.5-inch barrel at the government's request, and accordingly a shorter gas system. The stock was made collapsible so that it can be made smaller for easier transport, especially when getting in and out of armored vehicles. And it is also adjustable for use with body armor or for smaller statured Marines. The upper receiver no longer has a fixed carry handle rear sight assembly. It was made detachable. That way, with this rail interface, you can mount whatever type of optics the mission requires. You also have a railed handguard made by Knight's Armament Company. This allows for the addition of foregrips, lights, lasers, infrared aiming modules, all sorts of different accessories, again, depending on the mission. When used with the detachable carry handle rear sight assembly, the shooter has the same sight picture he or she expects from an M16A2 or an M16A4, which uses this same thing. One of my favorite little fun facts about the M4 and the M16A4, because they both use the flat top upper receiver, is, see that little F right there on the gas block? They had to redesign the gas block slightly because during the design process for the flat top upper receiver, they made that part thicker to make it stronger, but then the rear sights would no longer line up with the front sights. So instead of redesigning this whole detachable carry handle, they just changed around the gas block so that it would elevate the front sight just a little bit higher. The M4 retains the same burst fire functionality as the M16A2 and the M16A4. One of the most noticeable features about the M4 carbine is this stepped cut in the barrel. This was made to accommodate the M203 grenade launcher. You see the original M203s were designed around the barrel of the M16, which doesn't have that thicker portion right here. It's farther forward because the barrel's longer. So to be able to fit the original M203 mount, they had to cut into the barrel a little bit. Now, newer grenade launchers attach directly to the 1913 rail here on the handguard, so this is a little bit of a vestigial feature, but I still think it's worth pointing out. The Army originally used M4s and then M4A1s in much larger numbers than the Marine Corps. The Marine Corps mainly used them for squad leaders and for people in roles that did not require them to have a full-length rifle. But during the global war on terrorism, the Marine Corps realized that a lot of Marines were fighting in urban environments and therefore could benefit from something a little bit shorter, so they began issuing M4s in much larger numbers to individual riflemen. Now, I think almost all of you watching will be familiar with this, well familiar. This is an M16A4. It doesn't have the RCO like you might be expecting on the rail on the upper receiver there, but apart from that, it is just like you expect. This one has obviously seen a lot of heavy use, as evidenced by the finish wearing off some of the raised areas, but that means it has done its job. As you can see here, the M16A4 retains the burst fire mechanism from the M16A2 and from the M4. The M16A4 actually post-dates the M4 carbine. It was designed with the intent of bringing some of the more modern features of the M4, namely the use of the Knight's Armament quad rail handguard and the flat top upper receiver, to the full-size M16 platform. This one still has the standard fixed stock, as most do. That's how they came out of the factory, but you'll see some M16A4s in Marine Corps service retrofitted with the collapsing stock from the M4 to fit smaller statured Marines especially, and also to make them a little bit easier to use with body armor. Whereas the Army went into the global war on terrorism with M4 and M4A1 carbines fielded down to the individual soldier level, the M16A4 has been a Marine's mainstay throughout. It has served admirably since its adoption in 1997, And although some of them are getting a little bit long in the tooth, like this one you see here, they still continue to be used widely throughout the Marine Corps. Among individual riflemen in infantry battalions, M16A4s are being replaced with M27s on some basis, but the M16A4 is still a very widely used rifle throughout the Marine Corps. You'll see them commonly in training installations and various other bases in the United States. This rifle still has one of the rail covers with which it would have been issued while it was in the fleet. These were provided to protect the shooter's hand from the handguard because this milled aluminum surface can be very sharp and it gets very hot after prolonged firing and even just out in the desert sun.